Well, Jim, speaking of $13, I'm not sure if that would get you in the door at Arthur Ashe Stadium for AEW Grand Slam. What it turns out was an endless night of wrestling action. We both really loved AEW Dynamite this week. What did you think of Rampage, which I think was taped right after AEW Dynamite?
Boy, howdy, and it showed. They may have charged $13 to get out that night. For the people go, it's almost midnight. Can we leave? No, not unless you pay $13. Dynamite was top to bottom, as we mentioned, the most professional television program that they've done yet. Anything offensive or goofy was kept to an absolute minimum. They had the stars out. The crowd was there. Boom, boom, boom. I know they've got to take advantage of that big crowd, and I know they can't just tape constantly, but 2 hours of Rampage and 2 hours of Dynamite, even in front of 20,000 people. Again, when you're thinking about the live experience, they told those people, take public transportation and come early because it's going to be a mess. And you enlightened me. I've never been there, but the complex that they're in, you can't just fucking park at the door of the Arthur Ashe Tennis Stadium and walk right in. They made a commitment to go to that place, to be dropped off by public transportation or park way hell and gone from the building and walk in, blah, blah, blah. Maybe some of them have been in there since 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Now it's after Dynamite was 10 o'clock, and you've got to think they didn't tape. Maybe they taped some of this beforehand, but it didn't really look like it because the people were fucking wore out. They were dead. Not dead. They still reacted to things, but it wasn't the atmosphere that they had on the Wednesday night show because it was 2 more hours of wrestling after 10 o'clock at night on a long day to begin with. So the atmosphere wasn't there, and they didn't particularly give them past the first hour, which I understand. Have you seen the ratings?
I saw the overall ratings the other day, but I didn't see any of the breakdowns.
The first hour was 700 and something thousand people, and the second hour was 500 and something thousand people. Because once they saw Punk and they're fighting sleep and they're fighting disinterest because this was another AEW show where they couldn't get out of their own way.
I'll just say one thing because you brought up a good point. And again, it was Friday night pretty late. And if they did 700 for the first hour, that's approximately what they usually do for their only hour. But I twice attempting to watch it live and then watching it actually yesterday night, I fell asleep during the show.
Well,
and again, I'm 41 and I wake up at 6 a.m. and I do a lot all day. But I'm the audience for it in some sense. It was too much for me.
What is the big demo that everybody talks about? 18 to 49, right?
That's right.
You're in there.
Somewhere.
In there somewhere. Anyway, they had the big building and the big crowd again for Rampage on September 24th. But we started out with good old Excrement's voice, and he is trying so hard now that he's a lead announcer, he's going to give himself hemorrhoids. I'm just telling you. He needs to start sitting on one of them donut pillows already because he's trying. They did a VTR of the Hobbs Punk angle, which was a good reminder of everything from the previous week. And then we had right at the top of the program, like Mussolini and Annie Oakley. I don't know who. But that was the match that was pretty much the draw. And so they put it on early where at least people wouldn't go to sleep, but then, you had to try to keep them. So again, does anybody notice the difference when Punk comes out for a live interview? He's smiling, he's happy, he's diving into the crowd, he's running around the ring slapping hands. When he comes out for a match, he's got the game face on, he's serious. He checks the watch and it's clobbering time, and the people are with it. It's a totally different attitude from, the entrance for his promos, and because it should be, because he's going into a fight, quote unquote. And in this one, he didn't have Darby Allin that could do all the flashy shit and et cetera, and could be, even though Punk's not working as a heel, Darby was still an underneath babyface that could fight from underneath and then have the flurries. Hobbs is a big guy. It needed a different kind of match. They had a different kind of match. And also Hobbs, honestly, is, especially at singles matches and this long, Hobbs is a lot greener than Darby, but he's got a ton more upside than Darby because of his size and his look. He could be in a Roman Reigns spot, WrestleMania main event, or one of these days. Whereas that's not going to be Darby's fate regardless of what happens. But anyway, so Punk opens quick. He drop kicks him. Boom, he's going for the leg kicks. He's aggressive. He's trying to put over Hobbs' strength, but he's working the legs, try to take the big man's mobility away. They do a little distraction with hook, which is enough for Hobbs to stop Punk. And if you notice, going back on this, again, Hobbs is green, so he's herky-jerky early when Punk was trying to position him to do things, but once he's on offense, it's easier to sell for a guy like that, and kind of when even the guy calling the match is dictating the pace, I assume that was Punk, but it's easier when the green guy is in charge because he can do things that's comfortable to him, and you can slow him down or speed him up a little bit if you want to, and he listens. There was a time or two in there that I think Punk got hit with something a little different than what he was expecting. Especially one time when Hobbs just came off the ropes, it looked like he hit him with a fucking Vader fucking thing. I don't think Punk was expecting that, but at least from the bump that Punk took, he wasn't quite expecting that. But anyway, went through a break. He got the heat on him. Punk was selling his ass off. Finally, he fights up. He makes a comeback, hit the elbow drop off the top, I don't know whether he was working like, hey, folks, let's see if I can still do this, or whether he was happy he could still do it after, at that point in the match after 7 years. But Punk goes for the go to sleep, the GTS. Hobbs turned it into the spine buster, and that looked slick. Got a nice little 2 count. I don't know that anybody particularly thought Hobbs was going to win this, but it probably would have helped to have been on a couple hours earlier in the evening as to the reactions on a couple of the false finishes. And the other thing that I was like, what the fuck happened here, was Punk goes for the Hurricane Rana off the top rope, but Hobbs caught him, and Punk's hanging upside down, and then Punk sits up and goes for it anyway. And I guess, would Hobbs have ever been Hurricane Rana'd off the top rope before? Because he didn't know how to take the bump. He just dove head first. He didn't flip. And he kind of landed more or less on Punk, and I think Punk got a little cut on his face or in his mouth or whatever. Hobbs did the modified gotch lift, at least, into a one-armed power bomb, which looked fantastic. And then boom, 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 Punk's comes back up. He's going with the forearms, the kick. Hook comes up. Hobbs charges. Punk moves. Oldest finish in the world, and it always works. Hobbs hit hook. Punk hit the GTS 1, 2, 3. Except for that Hurricane Rana spot that I'm not sure what was going on there. That's, would you think, the best singles match that Hobbs has had to date on television. I mean, we don't watch the YouTube stuff, but can you imagine that he would have ever done anything like this on YouTube?
I think it was the best match we've seen on TV with Hobbs, but I also think it actually went too long. And I think between Punk just coming back, and I think there is some ring rust, and I wouldn't have him, especially the level of star he is, go too long.
Yeah.
And the fact that the crowd was burned out. If they weren't burned out, because there are other points in the show, they still want to sing Jericho's song, and they still want to react to some of the near falls, but by and large, the crowd was remarkably different here than it was a few hours earlier. I would have maybe called an audible and said, or maybe not an audible, but called it in the back and said, maybe we shouldn't go so long.
Well, but then one of these other matches had to go longer, and I wouldn't recommend that to anybody.
Hobbs looks great. The Hobbs has so much. His facial reactions, the basic big moves look great, like the belly block, I guess you would call it, where you just runs into Punk.
That's what I don't think Punk was thinking exactly what was coming at him, because he was trying to lean back and take a bump for a clothesline, it looked like. But he took the bump. I don't know whether he intended to take all of it or not. But yeah, but at the same time, yes, it was a little long, and should he have been, should he have gone that long with Punk? With Punk, it's his first television match, but that's another thing that Punk's trying to do is elevate a lot of these guys. So you got to give them their opportunity. I didn't have anything against that because, again, there was no ridiculousness. They didn't bury the referee. There wasn't any obvious cooperation or tomfoolery going on. There wasn't a afterbirth or ridiculously overbooked finish. The heels run into each other. You could have seen that in any era. So it was downhill from here for me, dog. Or would that be uphill? It was down. If Travis is getting better going downhill, this show was going downhill, but he wasn't getting better. He's going uphill. Well, the show's going uphill too. Up a long, hard, rock-strewn hill with hot sun. The next match was Christian Cage, Jungle Boy, and Dino Douche against the Hardy Boys and Adam Cole. And I thought, okay, I'm going to, fucking watch this because it's Adam Cole. Did you notice apparently Pieface of the Hardy Boys was his gear lost by the airline because he was just wrestling in Zubaz? Or is that another of his changing gear designs?
I really don't know.
So I'm starting to watch this, and Jungle Boy and the Hardy Boys did some gymnastics, but Adam Cole was running from everybody. He would get in and then tag out, or he would get away from any contact. I'm like, when did he become a coward? Why is he afraid of the middle card guys across the ring from him when he's just come in as a fucking star? And they did some more gymnastics. And finally, Cole tags in, and he gets the camel clutch on Jungle Boy. And the Hardy Boys jump in the ring, and they hit the ropes back and forth about 4 or 5 trips across the ring like they're gearing up to do something. And then they stop and lean over and kiss each one of Adam Cole's cheeks while he has the camel clutch on Jungle Boy. And that's when I decided that I will wait until Adam Cole has a single match, because it's not worth having to suffer the presence of the other two to fucking get to see Adam Cole. I didn't watch any more of this. I don't give a fuck. Once that they're kissing each other in the middle of moves, I'm afraid that I won't like Adam Cole anymore if I keep watching this type of thing. What did I miss?
I don't know. I really wasn't into it. I'm not into the Young Bucks style of matches. I'm just not. I really didn't care about this match. By and large, I haven't cared about Christian's run. I'm tired of the Jurassic Express. And I'm not really caring about what they're doing with Cole so far. So I really didn't give a shit, and I fast-forwarded.